It's Thursday, April 10th, a much-needed schedule off day for the St. Louis Cardinals. Welcome back to Cardinal Territory. I'm Katie Woo here with Bernie Miklasz. The Cardinals went 1-5 on their first road trip of the season. They have won 2 games in April. It was a grueling trip to the East Coast. Bernie, your thoughts on what was a rather disappointing first road trip of the season for St. Louis?
Well, I got to throw a curveball at you right away. So what about for you? Was it a grueling road trip? It was the birthday weekend. You had family in town. You had your girls in town. What did you survive it? Okay, I need to know that before we continue.
Do you see me right now?
Yeah.
Do I look like I survived?
You look fine. You look fine.
No, I had a lot of fun in Boston, obviously. And I can rally. This is the big leagues. If I'm going to go out, I'm still going to post the next day. Come on. But anyway. I will say this road trip, I used the word grueling in this my series recap on The Athletic. And that's how it felt. And it was a 6-day road trip. You know, we've done 10, 11 games straight on the road, and I have not felt this exhausted. So I can't even imagine how the players do, but it was so much in terms of the weather, a rainout, a doubleheader, 2 extra inning games. When was the last time a baseball team played 13 innings? Come on. What are we doing? I thought that's why we had the automatic runner. The elements were freezing, 3 straight 30-degree games. It was a tough one. All the fun aside, because that was my own doing, all the things I couldn't control, the baseball, the weather, the games, it was tiring. I definitely feel everyone could use this off day, but that's no excuse. And I know we're not making excuses for what was a poor showing from the old ball club. Again, 1-5 on the road trip, first road trip of the season. Look, Boston can swing it. They're a good club. You'd like to be able to take the series from Pittsburgh on top of being able to beat Paul Skeens on Tuesday, and they weren't able to do it. Your thoughts, Bernie? We'll start with you because I'm sure there's a lot to go over the last week of games.
Yeah, I thought it was disappointing because, first of all, they should have won the Pittsburgh series, and I'm not saying 2-4 means you had a great road trip. And there was one in Boston that got away. I mean, a rare off form day by Helsley. It's going to happen. I can't be rough on that guy. So they let some opportunities slip away, and I think that's really disappointing for them because it could have been a better road trip. And the last 9 games, in general, could have been better as well. But listen, I'm not saying this just because you brought it up, but I actually think it is exhausting to watch them play. It is, because there were so many times and I know we're focused on the road trip, but I'm also looking at like this block of games where they're 2-7. The road trip was primarily that. But there's just so many games where you're kind of like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to end? It's like, what next? What are they going to do? Like, what is Pop Warner sending Ciani home for I was going to use a phrase I won't use, but it's like, what is he doing? He's sending him to his demise automatically. Like what are they thinking? What are they doing? The games were draining to watch, unless you're a robot. They were draining to watch. And I felt it. I was just kind of like, my gosh, what an ordeal a couple of these games were. And I think that kind of is why the Cardinals came home frustrated and very tired. And again, no one's copping an excuse for them. They're pros. They go through stuff. We get it. But I think my number one takeaway, other than that, just the fact they're an exhausting team to watch and you're never really sure what you're going to get from day to day. Personality changes or whatever. But the pitching was just awful. Now, a couple different exceptions, of course, but the pitching by and large was awful. The bullpen was spent. The bullpen ran out of depth. The bullpen was almost non-competitive. Not every player, but you know what I'm saying. So they're even with this offense being as good as it has been, they can't be expected to score 6.5 runs per game. This pitching has got to get better, except the scary thing is I don't know how. There's not a lot of depth in Memphis right now. They sent Roycroft down. I know we're going to talk about that, but it's easy to say, well, the pitching's got to be better. How do you make it better? How does it get better? It's got to happen soon, especially with the Phillies coming to town.
Yeah, you're spot on. As I was watching these games, I felt the same way. It was, I've said this before, we are prepared to ride the roller coaster with the St. Louis Cardinals and the fan base. It's part of our job. I get, the highs and the lows that come in a 162 game season, that's part of it. these are going to be some extreme highs and lows, and it's going to be dependent on the pitching. I thought Sonny Gray's outing was much better. His last two have been good. Eric Fetty was effective. If you're going to let a leadoff guy on, just make sure they don't score. He did that. I agree with you about the bullpen looking spent. I mean, it was evident they were spent before they even left for the road trip. And even with that off day last Thursday, it was hard for them to rally and get back together. It just seems like there's no other options, though, to help this team get better. Now, I know the immediate argument is Michael McGreevy, and I do not disagree. But you have to think about the long-term plan of the season. The Cardinals have to make sure they are definitive on what they do with a Miles Michaelis or a Steven Matz. Those guys can't go to AAA. You can't send them down and bring them back up, right? You can't sit them and hope they get right and bring up a McGreevy or bring up somebody yet. They have to almost go through this trial and error period in April, and that's what fans don't want. They don't want this highs and lows, oh, Michaelis is in today, or oh, here comes Steven Matz out of the bullpen, another somewhat short start from Andre Palante, go down the list. Fans don't want that. And it's a lot more difficult to understand where the Cardinals are going because there is a clear option that looks better from a fan perspective in AAA, and it's not time to bring him up yet. So I understand why fans are frustrated there. The bullpen is a little even more dicey to me because you have Helsley, yes, off day in that game one of that doubleheader. That's not going to happen. It was evident when he came out first batter, he didn't have his fastball command. Not sure what else you can do in that situation except ride it. There's a doubleheader. Can't pull him out. And then you burn two relievers and you have nobody for what ended up being just a disastrous game two. Ryan Fernandez is working on some things. It hasn't looked good, but it looked much better in that Wednesday finale against Pittsburgh. Jojo Romero is looking better. Kyle Leahy, if there's one person that we should be praising over the start of the season, it's Leahy. He's looked excellent. But it just seems like the Cardinals are going to have trouble covering innings. And it makes me a little nervous because in 6 days, they're going to implement that so-called 6-man rotation. And I asked Ollie, if Steven Matz is supposed to be your length guy, and you're going to put him back in the rotation to help ease, and it's important to note that this is not going to be a traditional 6-man rotation. There's going to be built-in skip starts for certain guys where they'll have I'm going to call it a 5.5-man rotation, where sometimes they'll skip Steven Matz and he'll still be in the bullpen. Sometimes they'll skip somebody else and Matz will take that as a spot start. But they're essentially proceeding after this week with down a reliever. They're only going to have 7 relievers. And I asked Ollie, how is that going to work when the bullpen's already been spent, and show that with an 8-man ordeal, this is going to be difficult for them. He looked at me and he just said, they're going to have to cover. So that to me is not a great strategy. And to be fair, I don't think he said it or implied it as if either, but there are so many different dynamics with this transition plan, with this reset, with emphasizing development. And it just doesn't bode well because I really do think this offense can be the backbone of this club, but this pitching is going to be its demise if they can't figure out a way to be effective.
Yeah, and I don't know. I agree with you about McGreevy. I get it. And it's not easy to it's not a simple thing to understand. It's kind of complex. But they also, and I realize it's very easy to kick Miles Michaelis around. But one thing that I feel compelled to point out is I know he has a rep as an innings eater. And by and large, even the last couple of years, that's true. He's been mediocre or worse, but he does provide a lot of innings. But that's changed. I went back to late last season, beginning in August and then September and then carrying over to this year. His last 12 starts, he's averaged less than 5 innings.
You're right.
It's 4.5 innings. And his ERA is 6.99. And he's got he's got the worst ERA and the worst strikeout rate and the worst swing and miss rate in the majors, going back to early August last season. And my question, and we asked Ollie about this and, kind of put him on the spot on Gas House Gang the other day. And I just said, he doesn't have anything that a pitcher can survive with. I said, what is it that gives anybody down there the belief that, he can do this and then it'll get better? He's just he's so easily hittable now. There's not much defense there. You have to say a little baseball prayer that somebody's going to hit it right at a fielder. And Ali was saying, like, listen, we're trying, we're talking about this where, we suggest things, we try on everything, but at some point he's got to get it done. And that was the first time I ever heard Marmol, in effect, just leave that door open to, like, yeah, he didn't say, well, he's on the clock, but he made it clear, like, that this can't go on forever. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because it fits into the 6-man rotation thing. I mean, if your 6-man rotation, like, you have guys there that can't cover enough innings, and the one guy that is getting paid $18 million almost this year to give you a lot of innings isn't. So how is that going to help the bullpen when you're carrying Miles Michaelis? Now you're going to bring in Matz into the rotation. Like you said, it's not a traditional setup, but it's going to be even tougher for the bullpen to cover if these guys are getting bounced out of games early, or they can't go deeper into games. It's a real predicament.
It is. And that's why I think this upcoming start for Miles, which will be Saturday against the Philadelphia Phillies, yikes, is going to be very telling. And I think the next couple of weeks, as we approach the April 16th start line, if you will, for the 6-man rotation, it will be telling about where Miles lands. Could he go to the bullpen? Could him and Matt swap roles and Miles is the long man? He's making $18 million to perform. I know the Cardinals want him out there to eat innings, but there's a difference between, as you said, eating innings and eating innings of quality. And there has not been much quality lately from Miles. So that's something I'm keeping my eye on as the next homestand begins. Phillies, Astros. Phillies can swing it. Astros are struggling big time. So we'll see how the offensively, I should say, we'll see how the pitching shapes up. But this is something I'm absolutely monitoring because of the trickle-down effect into the bullpen. And we're always going to focus on the efficiency of the bullpen. It's nature as a fan, because when games are lost late, who are we looking at? The relievers. And so it's just, I'm not quite sure how sustainable this strategy is going to be for St. Louis, but I think we'll get a better idea as we approach the homestand and see how these starters fare. Some minor news to get into with the bullpen, speaking of, but first, let's hear from our sponsor, P&G.
AJ, it is time for people to get some new clubs, and to do that, they need to go to their local PXG for a fitting, right?
No doubt. I was there today. I've been there before. Last time I was there, they gave me this killer gap wedge. Look at that sweet spot, Scott. It is worn out. That is right in the sweet spot right there. So I went and got new clubs today, new irons. But more importantly, I got this bad boy. I got me a new putter. This is my old putter. It's on order. Yes, that's my putter cover. PXG Mustang putter. Now I'm going to the Allen putter. They talked me into it because I was draining some putts today. Bob, the guy who helped me out, he helped me with my irons. He got them teed up perfectly. But then we went to the putting green. I was draining them putts because that's the most important part of golf.
PXG fittings are fun. Schedule your fitting today. As you can hear from AJ, for a limited time, you could save up to 20% on your entire order. Head over to pxg.com/foul. That's pxg.com/foul to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/FOUL. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
All right, those are our pals, PXG. Thanks for that. Let's get into the minor news on the off day. Kind of saw this one coming. Chris Roycroft optioned to Memphis this morning. That is official. It's on the MLB transaction page, though the Cardinals have not announced it themselves. Roddery Munoz will be the corresponding move. I was told it was going to be between him and O'Brien. We'll see. Let me pull up Munoz's stat line. Memphis has had some real bad weather lately, so there haven't been a ton of games to go off of, but Munoz has appeared in 4 games, pitched 5 innings for Memphis, 3 hits, 1 earned run, walked 5. You don't love that. Struck out 7. You do love that. He is a former starter for the Marlins. He's a big arm. He's got a big arsenal. The idea here is to just be able to cover and be effective. I think we'll see, and I wrote about this in The Athletic this morning, we'll see Kyle Leahy get more of a higher leverage role now. Again, he's been excellent. And we'll see Munoz come in when needed. But as we saw, there's a huge difference in the Cardinals trailing by 2 and bringing in a reliever that can hold that to 2, or the Cardinals trailing by 2 and bringing in a reliever and all of a sudden they're down 5. So I think the idea for Munoz, and we'll know more when this move becomes official, probably tomorrow, will be to kind of just hold the gap in a deficit while the Cardinals look towards Leahy to kind of mirror Ryan Fernandez in that setup role. But I think Phil Maton and Ryan Helsley in the 8 and 9, that's a lock. And that's looked really good, at least.
And Munoz is interesting because he does have that firepower, but he also doesn't seem to know where the ball is going to go either. And that's a problem. But one of the main issues with the Cardinals bullpen, I mean, Helsley can strike out anybody. I mean, Helsley's got a great strikeout rate. Kittredge had a really good one last year. Fernandez was starting to have a really good one, and he's, as you said, working on some things. I know we're only 12 games in here, but I was stunned to look at how poor of a strikeout rate this bullpen has, and that's one of the problems. The ball's in play a lot, and they're walking people too. And again, I don't want to jump on Ryan Helsley. That was just a bad day at the office. The guy's an awesome closer, but there's some really bad habits down there, or some things that sort of expose their lack of capability. And there's not enough swing and miss. There's not enough punch outs. And I think in today's baseball, it's been this way for a while now. You need that. You need heavyweight punches. You need to just, okay, you got a dangerous hitter up. You got to get punch outs. You don't give them a chance to hit the ball hard somewhere. And, the strategy shouldn't be, we can get some ground balls and get out of this. When you're relying on batted ball luck, I mean, that for a bullpen, that's a disaster waiting to happen. And I think we're seeing the early signs of that. So, and listen, I'm going to be insufferable here for about 30 seconds. I don't mean to be that guy. I apologize. But I was saying, listen, they're not, that bullpen cannot be as good as it was last year. And I was just warning people that consume my work. It's just not realistic. It's not fair. That bullpen was one of the greatest ones they've had in a season in the history of the franchise. Everything fell into place. History shows, and I did a study, when you have a killer bullpen like that, it almost always regresses the following year, and sometimes dramatically. So I hate to be that guy saying, well, I tried to warn everybody, but I guess I'm being that guy for now. I'd like to see these guys do a lot better, because it makes it more interesting when they're a lot better. Because these late games, there's hope that the Cardinals can put one away. I mean, they lost one game after leading in the 8th inning all year last year, 49-1. They've already lost one this year, and the season's 12 games old.
49-1 is crazy.
I know. See, there's no way there's no way that can be replicated. It just can't happen.
Yeah. I should listen to you, Bernie, because I was a bullpen believer, and I'm starting to doubt.
Like I said, I did say I was being insufferable, so at least I owned up to it. But
no, yeah. I get it, and I think you're spot on. And here's the problem with this pitching staff as a whole. We already knew the starting rotation was, again, despite years and years of this not working, a pitch to contact staff. The bullpen, with the exception of Ryan Helsley and to an extent Phil Maton, to an extent slightly, is a pitch to contact staff. These guys, Helsley excluded, do not have any overpowering stuff. Velo plays this day and age. The Cardinals are still stuck 10 years ago, stop me if you heard that before, on a pitch to contact philosophy that does not play. And they got away with it for so long because they were exceptional at defensive positioning. And they're athletic. And this club defensively is really sound. And it's going to help guys like Palante. It's going to help guys like Fetty, McGreevy when he gets up here. But to, let's point out Miles Michaelis' start last Sunday. They're hitting the ball and it's not at someone, you're in trouble. And that's the staff. That's the definition of the St. Louis Cardinals pitching staff, whether you're a starter or a reliever. Pitch to contact, average velo. Guys are sitting 92, 93. That doesn't play in this day and age when you see it every single day. I think the St. Louis Cardinals are like the easiest team to game plan against because you're seeing the same pitcher every single day, every single inning. Oh, same guy, maybe a little different arsenal, but hey, they've got weaker stuff. They pitch to contact, and it's easy to game plan against. So that, I don't know. I think it's frustrating, definitely. I don't think we'll see a lot of performances like that from Helsley again, but you might have been onto something, Bernie, about the bullpen, and I'm not yet going to say that I was wrong, but I'm getting very close. We'll see. Again, we'll see how they can cover innings. We'll see about the patchwork job. I did think this is an unpopular take. People are going to hate this. Sorry about it. I thought Ollie Marmol did a nice job managing Wednesday's game. I know they lost in 13 innings, but that to me exemplified what this bullpen is capable of doing when everyone's clicking. And that was a all hands on deck situation. You have Fetty for 6. You applaud him. He got through 4 walks, didn't allow a hit, erased 5 out of 6 leadoff batters that got on. That's pretty effective. And then you come in and you have Maton do his job. Great stuff from Leahy in the 8th. First time in high leverage that we've seen him in that high leverage of a game in a scoreless ball game. And then you just deploy your guys because you're going to extras. And this is not like a home game. You have to save your closer for when you have a lead because In a home game, if you're pitching in a tie game, there's no bottom of the 9th, 10th, whatever, right? But if in away games, you have to save Helsley. And they do. You see Fernandez come in, fixed his stuff, looked a lot better. Great job by Jojo to get out of the jam. And by that point, though, Helsley's been up twice. And once a reliever gets up twice, you have to put him in the ball game. You can't have him get hot a third time and then have him go in. You can't have him get up hot twice and pitch multiples. That was the inning for Helsley. I asked Ollie Marmol about that after the game. I know a lot of you on Twitter think that I don't ask Ollie any questions after the game. But I'm here to let you know I do actually do my job. And he said Helsley was getting this game regardless. He'd sat 2 days because he pitched 37 pitches on Sunday. But we did not want him to sit after a bad outing like that into an off day. And then the next time he pitches was Friday. Once he got up twice, he was going in the game regardless. Obviously, we had hoped to have a lead to use him. That's why he got up twice. But after he got hot twice, I'm not doing that to him. He's getting in the game. And then after that, you're just hoping something works. You see Steven Matz come in. Nothing you can really do with a deep fly ball to right and that automatic runner. And then, of course, Chris Roycroft just didn't have it. That game sped up on him. But in that situation, I'm not quite sure what Ollie Marmol could have done differently. They scored 1 run in 13 games. I get it. The offense is probably due for an off night. I don't really want to spend too much time clamoring about what has been a very good offense to start the year. I did not think bullpen management was why they lost that game on Wednesday.
Well, you and I totally agree on this. And I was just almost taken aback, which is weird to say you're taken aback by anything you see on social media. But people are just losing their minds over stuff that to me had nothing to do with the fact they lost the game. Like people were just going bonkers, just going bananas over the fact that he pulled Fetty after 6 innings. And I'm like, well, I don't, did we watch a different game? What in the hell did that have to do with them losing in 13 innings? Right. I mean,
I didn't lose the game because of Eric Fetty.
And because Marmol didn't put him out there for another inning. And I had even people that I actually respect saying, well, if you get an extra inning out of Fetty, then you'll have one of your better relievers still available. Everybody gets pushed back. And I'm like, wait a minute. So what you're saying is like any manager in baseball, when he's got a decision to make whether to pull the starter, a starter who, by the way, was out of gas by that time.
He was tired.
It was a really tough 6 innings. People see the no hits and they think, oh, yeah, he was dominating. No, he wasn't. So no, he wasn't. He had to really fight his way out of jams. He walked 4. 5 of the first 5 leadoff men in the inning got on in 6 innings. But the people that were saying, well, he should have, well, you see, I know baseball, and if you move him, if you give him another inning, well, then you're going to have an extra bullet in the chamber later. And I know I'm rambling, but my point being is like, what manager in the history of the game sits in the 6th inning and he's got his bullpen lined up to cover the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, even 11th? What manager sits there and says, well, I better get an extra inning out of Fetty, even though he's gassed, because I know this game's going to go 13 innings. I was
going to make that same reference. Who does that?
Like what manager sits? It's like you sit there. Like what manager is thinking 6 innings ahead at the end of the 6th, right?
Exactly. And when was the last time? Seriously, when was the last time the Cardinals went 13 innings? Because by the 11th, I was getting both annoyed and also scared because all 3 of the Cardinals beat writers on that trip had a 7 p.m. flight out of Pittsburgh.
Uh-oh.
And we're looking at the clock and we're like, uh-oh. Oh, no.
I just, my goodness, it's like, listen, Ollie and I have a unique relationship because he knows that I jump on him for stuff. I mean, he knows that I really get after him on stuff. But let's try to be fair.
Let's be fair.
Like why are people going nuts over what I thought were inconsequential things? My good friends, they scored 1 run in 13 innings. They went 3 for 15 with runners in scoring position. They lost 3 runners on the bases.
They didn't play well. They just did not play a good baseball game.
And we're talking about Eric Fetty? What?
Yes. And it's so funny, Bernie, because I was thinking the same thing. Like, I had a couple of fans, and look, I love fan engagement, and sometimes I kind of want to pull my hair out, but I also I understand you care about the sport. You're not watching this podcast if you don't care about the Cardinals. So I get it, and I will never stop trying to answer questions as often as I can. You guys could ask them a little bit more nicely to me, but other than that, I will always try to find, if there's something that you want to know or an explanation, I will do my best to get it. But when you're asking me why Chris Roycroft was in the game after the Cardinals have already used 7 other pitchers, like, who else is supposed to be in there? Luke and Baker? Like, I get it. You want the best for your outcome for your team. But really, in that case, there was nothing anyone could do except someone try to score. And eventually the Pirates did. So we'll get to, I think, a big concern, and it's a hot topic in Cardinals land, about Willson Contreras. But first, we need to hear from our pals. It's time for me to forget where I put it on this producing site. Our friends at FanDuel Sports Network. You can now stream the St. Louis Cardinals through FanDuel Sports Network. And if you use the promo code baseball30, you can start it off with a 30-day extended free trial at FanDuelSportsNetwork.com/packages. This deal expires May 2nd, 2025, $19.99 a month after your free trial. Cancel during your free trial to avoid charges. Eligibility restrictions apply. Visit FanDuelSportsNetwork.com for details. We are going to launch right in to our player to watch, presented by FanDuel Sports Network. That player is Willson Contreras. It has not been a good start for the St. Louis Cardinals first baseman. He is a ghastly, 5'4", 49? Am I right? I think I'm right.
5 for 46. Oh, he's hitting to 103. I know that.
5 for 49 with 22 strikeouts. That is not what you want from your number 2 hitter. We talked to Willson after the game on Wednesday, because I think the big question that we're seeing, other than the normal bullpen, whatever you guys want to call it, discourse, I would call it something else, has been is a time to move Willson Contreras down in the lineup. And that is a question I've been asking around. But I want to talk to Willson first to see how he was feeling. So talked to him after the game yesterday, and he was asked if this was a surprising start to the season for him, given how well his spring training went. Contreras, if you remember, hit nearly 500 in spring training. And this is, I'm going to read the quote from Contreras. Spring doesn't mean shit. Which is true. Opposing pitchers aren't game planning. They are just throwing fastballs down the middle. If you watch my at-bats, I'm not getting any fastballs, and I'm not getting a good pitch to hit. I'm probably overswinging, trying to do something. I need to get better at that. There are no excuses for me to not get better. And Contreras here is spot on. If you watch how opposing pitchers are sequencing against him, he has rarely seen a fastball. It's breaking ball, slider, off speed, anything except a fastball, because he cannot pick up the spin. And the more that opposing pitchers know that, the more they're going to throw it at him, and the more he's going to be compounded in this, I have to swing hard to get out of it. He doesn't look comfortable in the box at all. He looks frustrated. We asked him, hey, Ollie has said in years prior, you maybe have broken a couple things. Maybe there's been a bat rack displaced from the wall, or, a broken chair or something. And he goes, yeah, I haven't done that this year. Maybe that's hurting me, actually. Maybe it's not helping me like I think it is. So sorry in advance to the clubhouse attendants at Busch Stadium. But I'm wondering, Bernie, from your perspective, given how the rest of the lineup shapes out and is looking, is it time to drop Contreras in the order? And if so, why aren't the Cardinals doing it?
That's a great question. And I'm usually inclined to say, well, what's the hurry? What's the rush? Except the memory of Paul Goldschmidt stays with me. Ollie stayed with him in the 2-hole or moved him to the 3-hole and put him at cleanup, like he was trying to find a spot for him. And Goldie was just not producing. He was putting a lot of pressure on himself when he was batting like second, third, and fourth, right? Ollie finally backed off that, and he started moving him down in the lineup. And I looked up these numbers today. I'm not going to read the numbers. But when Goldie last season batted 5th, 6th, or 7th, his numbers were fantastic. And I really think that Contreras, it would be a good mental break for him. Not when you're batting second, that's a really important role, because that's in the way baseball is now, as you know, and a lot of people know, the belief is you put your best hitter second. Okay, that also means your best hitter, if he's batting second, if he's not getting anything done, then they're fortunate the offense hasn't suffered, because the offense has been really good, except for yesterday. But I think it would do him well, just as much like it did Goldie well, to get out of that hot spot. It gives him a chance to regroup if you're batting lower in the order. And I think that is it. It's a move that makes sense. It just makes sense. The other thing is what Willson is going to have to do is Willson, pardon the cliche, he's getting himself out. He's got a 41% strike rate. He's swinging at everything. And his control of the strike zone is so bad. StatCast has a thing where, you can look at the pitches that go to the heart of the plate, the meatballs, right down the middle, what every hitter wants. Willson is so messed up, just in between swinging at stuff way off the plate, not being able to do anything with stuff that comes down the middle. On those heart of the plate pitches so far, he's 0 for 18.
That's not Willson as a hitter.
No. So he's going, he's lunging after stuff he shouldn't swing at. And then it's like when he gets one right down the middle, it's almost like he's surprised or something. His head's not in a good space right now. And I think very highly of this guy. He's a very proud man, but his head space needs to be cleared out a little bit. Moving him down in the order would do that. It would help do that anyway.
I don't disagree. My counter argument is, and here's where the Cardinals are at, who do they have to put in the 2-hole? This is an entirely different situation if Ivan Herrera was not injured. By the way, I was vindicated. I was vindicated for those who missed it for about 3 innings when Ivan Herrera was the number 2 hitter on Sunday in game 1 of the doubleheader. Now, did he get hurt that game? Yes, but for 3 innings, I was smart. Yeah. And I just wanted to point that out. But if they have a hitter like Herrera still on there, Ivan Herrera, in case you missed it, by the way, will miss at least 4 weeks with a bone bruise in his left knee. No structural damage, so that's good, but a significant blow to the offense. He was on fire before his injury there. If they have Herrera, that's an easy swap. You put Herrera up in the 2-hole, you drop Contreras down to maybe 5 or 6. We've talked about this before. I like how Ollie stacks his lineup lefty-righty, lefty-righty. It's very difficult to game plan against. It works well, it clicks. But there's no one that's screaming at me that's a right-handed bat that can go be in the 2-hole. Now, the counter argument is, well, Nootbaar and Donovan are hitting really well. Really well. Donovan was 13 for 23 on the road trip, maybe like the lone bright spot of that trip. So could you stack your lefties 1-2? You could, but then it becomes really easy to game plan because you think about when that lineup turns over. And you go Victor Scott, Mason Wynn, lefty, and Nootbaar, Donovan, whomever. And with Nolan Gorman on the bench, it's really hard to game plan against that if you're Ollie, because opposing managers are going to look at that lefty lane, and that's where they're going to bring in their high leverage relievers. So then you're going to go to your bench, and you're going to put in Luke and Baker. And then you're going to take away an at-bat from Lars Nootbaar or Brendan Donovan. Is that really what you want to do? Because it's easier to play the matchups, and you don't have Nolan Gorman to combat that as a left-handed bat off the bench to reverse it. So it's a complicated thing, and it's a little nitpicky, but I understand where the Cardinals are coming from. They want to make sure that Nootbaar and Donovan keep finding themselves in positions to succeed, and they found that in the leadoff spot and the 3-hole. Donnie and down lower, of course, against lefties. But I don't know if there's a right-handed bat that profiles better right now in the number 2-hole. Do you?
Well, at this moment, no. But what about Mason Wynn if he continues to hit well? Like he's on a bit of a heater now. If he continues to hit well, I don't want him batting first, but I could see him batting second in the lineup for reasons that you just kind of laid out. I'm just saying he's a candidate.
He's a candidate, but there's not many. I don't think they want to do that to him, and I don't think that's good for Mason, given that he's just now figuring it out. Also, I just love the Victor Mason tandem at the bottom of the order.
That's true too, and this gets into sort of they're overloaded with left-handed bats, and I'm not saying, Thomas Sajaci would be that guy. I'm not saying that, but he's a right-handed hitter. He's got some talent, and at some point he'll be a regular part of the team. He just has to wait in line for now. But that's a right-handed bat that could be useful to you down the road. But in this moment in time, no, I wouldn't say put Sajaci batting second, because first of all, how many games is he going to start? So you tip of the cap, you brilliantly have diagnosed this. It's not as easy as
I had a lot of people telling me I was stupid and explaining it to me the other way around.
No, and I don't even have a cheat sheet because I'm wondering, well, I'm forgetting somebody, but I don't think I am actually.
No, I mean, you're not going to put Jordan Walker in the 2-hole. He looks great where he's at. That's the problem. Everyone else looks great where they're at. So if you mess up with that, you risk hurting the offense in a different way. The easy fix to this is Contreras just figuring it out. And that's what they're going to keep doing. If Herrera was still here, if Herrera was available, we saw it already. They would have done the switch. And the only reason Contreras was batting third in that lineup was because they were facing a lefty in Sean Newcomb. Now, if they were facing a righty, I think Ollie Marmol would have dropped Contreras even lower, but still kept Herrera in the 2-hole. They're not going to have Herrera until at least another month. Their best line here is to just hope Contreras can figure it out. And to his credit, he's working at it. And he's, players like that after a series like that can easily blow off the media. And I could tell from his face he kind of wanted to, but he didn't. And he answered the questions. And you just have to hope he gets on track because he's such a key piece to this ball club.
Well, and maybe, we're all very impressed by the quality of Walker's at bats.
We are.
It's really impressive. His patience, even that RBI single yesterday, he's coming off the bench. Now, look, I know he sort of chopped one through the right side, but that the pitcher was on the mound for the Pirates, a right-handed sidearm guy who's throwing stuff that tails away from right-handed hitters.
That's his weakness.
And that's his weakness. I mean, he hung in there really, really well. And when he got something to hit, it's not like he hit a bomb. It's not like he hit a gapper, but he knew he did enough to know, okay, I've just got to, if nothing else, punch this ball through the right side. And that's what he did. That was a hell of an at-bat. It may have not been the most beautiful hit, but it was a hell of an at-bat. So maybe Walker would be – when do you entertain – hypothetically, when do you entertain the possibility of him moving into a more prominent spot in the lineup? Is that something that you would speed that up if he has another couple good weeks? It's just kind of stuff to put on the table to talk about. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I wouldn't, just because it's such a critical year to get Jordan Walker right. Why rush him into a different situation or a new situation if he's finally finding success where he is? And I mean, I think a perfect example of this is the catch he made Tuesday night, final play of the game. So we didn't have a lot of time to talk about it. It saved the game. That was a catch off the bat, the sound barrel. Full disclosure, I closed my eyes because I thought we were going to extras. And I didn't hear, there were like 4 people at the game. I didn't hear any crowd cheering. So I opened my eyes and game's over. So I'm like, okay. And I go back and I watch it and you can just see the read. Jordan Walker's first step off contact is right where it needs to be. It's a great route. He's running and he puts his arm up and you think he's like flailing. He's not going to get it, snags it, easy money, cracks a joke to Victor Scott. And I'm like, that is a play he would not have made last year. And he knew off the bat exactly where to go, what to do, because he's finally being put in a position to succeed. If you read my work at The Athletic for a while, that was a common point I was making in 24, that the Cardinals were not ever putting Walker into position to succeed. Now they are. A lot of work from John Jay in the outfield, a lot of time spent with Ollie Marmol trying to figure him out. I see the same thing offensively. It's going to take some time, but I don't see the need to kind of rush him around. I really like where Jordan Walker is at right now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, please, because I can't claim that I've watched every at-bat of every game they've played. I have a short attention span, and I'm always doing different things. But anyway, has there been one play in right field this year so far where you're kind of holding your breath, or even if he makes the catch, it just looked wobbly, it looked kind of shaky, it looked almost like lucky? For all the plays that I've seen, he just seems like very self-assured, very calm.
I would agree.
Confident.
That's not the word Ollie used, confident, because we talked about this a couple of days ago. He said, no, he's confident there, more comfortable, and it's going to continue to get better. And I'm not saying that he's going to be some all-star right fielder, but I'm saying that for the first time in 2 years, it looks like this could work for them. And that's a testament, a lot of it to Jordan and a lot of it to John Jay.
And I'm sure Brant Brown's helped clear his head a little bit from the hitting side. Coaching does matter. And to me, Jordan Walker was a victim of all of the things that were wrong with their player development system. And just here, they just plopped the guy in right field after never even giving him much time at all in the minor leagues to work at playing right field. It's just like, oh, Double-A, you had 2 or 3 weeks of games in right field down in Double-A. Oh, you're a starting right fielder in the major league. He didn't even know how to play the position. He didn't know how to play the position. Right. How do you do that to a guy? They did it. It tells me Walker's got a lot of character, a lot of desire to be really, really good. And I must say, Katie, I've wondered about him in the past. He's a good person, don't get me wrong. But was he someone who was receptive to coaching?
Sure.
You know, and I wondered whether some of it is like they're telling him some decent things and he's just sort of rejecting everything, or he's not buying into it. I think at the winter warm-up we saw when he appeared on the podium, you know, whoa, where'd this guy come from? He's breaking down he's breaking down his swing and he's excited about what he's worked on. So the coaching has made a world of difference for him so far. And it also just makes me sick that how poorly they brought him along.
Don't get me started on this one. Don't get me started on this one because I have a lot to say, none of it nice. But I'm with you. Let me just say I'm with you. Last thing before we head out.
Okay.
The Cardinals will welcome the Philadelphia Phillies, they play the Atlanta Braves tonight in Atlanta. They will face the probables for the Phillies. Aaron Nola, Christopher Sanchez, and Zach Wheeler. So go get them, boys. That will be a good test for the offense. The Cardinals, on the other hand, will throw out Andre Palante, Miles Michaelis, and Matthew Liberatore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well.
All right.
Hey, if you want to recover from that road trip, you win the Phillies series, right? You feel a lot better about yourself.
You winning, given how the probables I just read, if the Cardinals take 2 or 3 out of Philly, that would be a very impressive feat. So we'll see.
Can I ask you one thing? And I don't, you know, I know you're on a tight schedule. I'm not horsing around with this one. I'm not going to ask you about your social plans or whatever. No,
I have no social plans. I'm going to take a nap.
Did you see anything during this road trip or during the last 9 games that tells you that confident, you know, cocky in a good way team that came out of spring training, we're going to show the world and on? Have you seen any signs of that wavering a little bit?
That's a good question. I don't want to say it was wavering. I think they just wanted to get out of Pittsburgh. I get it. I mean, it was miserable outside. And I just think they were like, man, I want to go home. I want to go back to St. Louis. Like, let's figure it out. I think they just needed a recharge. They needed a reset. It was not a good road trip. At the doubleheader really like killed some or crushed some people, killed their spirits. I ran into Nolan Arenado before Monday's game, and I was like, "Are you good?" He goes, "This doubleheader crushed me," and he's like, "I think I'm sick." And then he was ended up being scratched. So I don't want to say it's wavering. I still think they're a confident bunch. I liked the fight that they showed, even in that blowout on ESPN. We'll have a good test to see where they're at after an off day. I would not read too much into the results from a personality standpoint, if you will. I just think the team really wanted to go to Pittsburgh.
Makes sense.
Kind of
looked like it.
It looked like a getaway game yesterday. From both teams. Both teams were like, "This enough already," to the point where they just couldn't put it away either side. And
reset. There's that word again. Reset. Time for a reset.
Oh, yeah. Season. All right. As always, Bernie, it was a pleasure. Anything else?
No. Wonderful to talk with you as always. Thanks for having me on with you on Cardinal Territory. Love it.
One of my favorite things of the week. We'll be back with you at some point next week. Phillies in town, Astros after. For Bernie Miklasz, I'm Katie Woo. Thanks for watching Cardinal Territory.